Hey guys, been a while, I guess. I got a haircut since, when was the last video I made? Like April or whatever? Anyway, got a haircut, new glasses, back in the dorm, and got a new computer, which is how I'm recording this because my computer was the problem before, so got a new one. I'm using just the webcam and mic that comes with it, so it's probably not the best quality, but it's something, it works, right? So, comic reviews. Just jumping right back on that horse with Original Sin, number 8 of 8. And the text looks backwards on the camera, which is new, I think. Anyway, 8 of 8, the finale of Original Sin, which admittedly is the first Marvel event comic I read as it was coming out, so kind of a new experience for me. And honestly, I kind of have the same problem with this that I did with Trinity War, in that it just feels like a setup for this kind of big non-reboot thing that Marvel is planning with, as they so earnestly advertise on the back of the issue with female Thor and um, Angela and basically all the characters getting new books and rebooting themselves. And it's like right here as it ends. Sorry, spoiler alert, but as it ends with Nick Fury becoming the new Watcher, you have, by the way, buy our new book. So it just feels like just kind of like they weren't really trying to tell a full story. I mean, they did, and it was kind of enjoyable. It was a little all over the place. I think maybe too many characters. They kind of put everything in the dark too long. And it's good as I get to kind of read the whole thing now. But yeah, that's basically how I feel about it. Just readable. Probably wouldn't pick it up in trade. Probably won't be remembered that long after this. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have forgotten about it now. Just excited to kind of move on to Marvel's new thing, like the new Thor, the new Captain America, new Iron Man, and all that. I'm picking up at least the new Thor because I think that seems interesting. But overall, probably a pass, and a pass on Original Sin just as in the entire event. I mean, some of the spin-offs were nice. I like the Spider-Man one so far with Silk. I think she's interesting. But again, that doesn't have to be a tie into an event. Silk could have just been a new villain, and she is tying into Spider-Verse anyway. So anyway, moving on to Moon Knight, number 7. This is the first issue not written by Warren Ellis, and picking this up at the store, I actually talked to the people there about how I was kind of nervous, and they assured me that Brian Wood, who's the new writer on the book, would do a really good job, and I have to say they were probably right. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, this camera's not so good, but Moon Knight's on the corner over there. Maybe if I bring it closer, there you go. Now you see him. Anyway, it was good. I mean, what I was most worried about was not that it wouldn't be good. I mean, I trusted they wouldn't throw away, a book like this after 6 issues with some, bad talent. But I was worried that it wouldn't have the same feel as the first 6 issues did. The first 6 issues had a very unique but concrete feel, thanks to Warren Ellis. The book was dialogue light. I mean, there was almost no dialogue in any issue of the book. They were all very self-contained. And it kind of changes here. This seems like it could definitely be the first issue of a longer arc. I'm not going to spoil this one. But overall, it still feels kind of the same. I mean, it still feels like Moon Knight. It's still very good. If anything, I think the art is what threw me off a bit. And they previewed it in previous weeks, I think. And there was the end of issue 6, and then they previewed issue 7, and then there was another book that was in the back of, but I can't remember what. And the art kind of threw me off, and I think when I find the page that really does the best is this one, where you first see Moon Knight in this issue, and again, the brightness is all wonky. But Moon Knight looks like a pencil drawing just in the rest of the background, and I like it because he stands out, and he's like bright and white, and he definitely like stands out, and I like it. But also his eyes are I don't want to say too expressive, but he almost just always looks confused in this book. Um, like he's always, I don't know. I don't want to say it reminds me of like the Adam West Batman cowl, and that's actually a pretty cool thing I accidentally did there, where my head is tiny and also Moon Knight's. But I don't know. I don't know if it's the eyebrows. I don't know if it's just his eyes being kind of wider than normal. But he always kind of looks like he's going, huh? Like in every panel he's on in this one, and he is kind of asking questions, but he doesn't. I don't know. It's not really confidence. You know, it's not the confidence I expect him to really be with in this book. And it was still good. I'd still pick it up. I still enjoyed it, but I'm gonna definitely have to get used to the new creative team on the book. And it does feel slightly different. I mean, you still have that very strong kind of urban dark feel where you're not quite sure, you know, like everything's self-contained, like you know there's a larger world, but everything is still kind of narrowed down where like, oh, I'm sure everything's fine, but I don't know, it's kind of hard to, there's this weird feeling that this book has, this weird tone. But Moon Knight still, like, as, like, except for the eyes, everything he still acts, his dialogue is still as nonchalant as ever, he's still confident in that way. And he's still heroic, you know, like violent and brute, but heroic, definitely on the side of good, or at least protecting the city. So yeah, I'd pick it up. Next book this week was Batman 66 and Green Hornet #4. So jumping kind of in the middle of this limited series here. I've enjoyed this so far. I mean, I've only read kind of a spatter, I guess, of Batman 66. My friend reads it kind of religiously and we talk about it, but I haven't really read much of it myself. So this was kind of the first, not this book, but this miniseries was kind of my first foray. And I really enjoy it. I mean, I enjoyed the Batman 66 show. So, I mean, I know that's kind of divisive just among the comics community is whether or not that show is good or ruined Batman or was good for Batman, but whatever. I, for one, enjoyed it, and I kind of enjoy this. I'm also kind of wary about Kevin Smith, but, and this is a lot better than Widening Gyre, or Gyre, or however you pronounce it. And this is a comedic book, just like right up front, so maybe there's just less dissonance there. But also everything's well written. Everything feels very Batman from the '60s. The art is really great. Like just very kind of that, you know, it's exactly as you'd expect it to look. I mean, I like the cover too. I like the more painted style on the cover. Yeah, this is another good book. I mean, it's right in the middle of the arc, so I don't want to like talk too much about it. But you really have like that good feel, like, and you get that from the art with all the colors. You get that from the dialogue, which is kind of spot on for the '60s television show. You get with stuff like the Bat Shield gimmick that has Bat Shield written on it. So, and this whole thing, I've really enjoyed it so far. I've enjoyed all 4 issues. I'm probably going to enjoy the next 2. And if you also like Batman 66, Adam West, that whole shebang, I pick it up because it's good. I've enjoyed it. Not the best, but Kevin Smith has done a lot worse. So now moving on to Green Arrow Futures End #1, and I got the lenticular cover. That's what the store had, and you know, it's not that bad. What's weird, I think, is that it extends to the back, the lenticular cover, so you have this ad for Conan with the same. Anyway. So this is Green Arrow. It's a tie-in to Futures End, which has been the weekly arc series that DC's been doing for, what number are we on now? 18? Yeah, so for 18 weeks. This month, all the comics are kind of getting tie-ins. And so this follows, spoiling Futures End a bit, one of the big plot lines in Futures End is that Green Arrow was murdered, or had died. And so that was one of the triggers for this whole thing. And so in this, of course, we have his headstone on the cover. But for this, we kind of find out what really happened to Green Arrow. So slight spoilers, he's still alive. And we follow Emiko and basically Team Arrow as, I mean, it's kind of a prequel to Futures End. These are all prequels to Futures End, all the tie-in books. Time travel, it's hard to place everything on the line, because technically it's still in the future, but because Futures End takes place 5 years in the future, and this takes place like a year in the future, so anywho, it's not in the past. It's comics, it doesn't exist in real time anyway. But again, art is exactly what you'd expect from recent Green Arrow. Tone, everything really fits. I mean, this doesn't feel like a tie-in. I mean, definitely from just the plot-wise, but tone-wise, story-wise, character-wise, this feels very true to the Green Arrow book as you'd expect it, which is nice. It doesn't really feel like they're interrupting a current arc. I mean, that's also because the current arc just ended, and they're switching creative teams next month, so that's going to be something when we get to that. But this just feels kind of very natural. It's not exactly a standalone because it ties into Futures End, but if you want, and it also ties into a lot of the previous Green Arrow stuff. So yeah, and I wouldn't pick it up unless you've been reading Green Arrow, just because there's a lot of characters, a lot of events referenced that a new reader probably wouldn't get. Which is weird for number one, because you think they try to make number ones more accessible, but I guess not. But yeah, this was a pretty good Green Arrow story. Again, not the best, kind of weakened by having to know everything that goes on in Green Arrow and Futures End. But, and it's an interesting twist in the Futures End story, especially because Green Arrow's death had such a huge impact. So whatever happens in this book, and they actually timed this really well, because when we get to the Futures End book, I'll talk more about that then, but they timed this pretty well. And it definitely stirs the pot. Definitely kind of changes things, and it changes things well. It doesn't really feel too gimmicky, which is nice for a tie-in. Moving on to Grayson, Futures End number 1. Grayson, of course, still early. I think we're only 3 issues in, so I mean, a tie-in, I don't know, it seems a bit too soon. And I don't have a particular for this one because my story didn't have it. Anyway, Grayson number 1. I really enjoyed this. I mean, so far I've been kind of so-so on Grayson the book, but this was just a really good, and this is a good single issue too. So the main gimmick is that you start 5 years from now, and every page afterwards is earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier, and so the story just keeps on going backwards, earlier and earlier. And they constantly reference things, so on one page, for instance, let me find it. So on one page, they reference over here, well, since we're about to die, you have to tell me how you did it. And I can't really read the text unless I bring it really close because the brightness here is awful, and I'm sorry, guys. But it basically says, Helena says to Dick, well, since we're going to die, you have to tell me how you did it. And Dick is, we don't know what they're talking about, but Dick says, oh, it's a sort of acid. So he tells them what this thing is, and then near the back of the book, we find out what this refers to, what the big secret was. And then another thing we get is over here, we have Dick referencing Clue Master's code, and we don't know what Clue Master's code is either, but that comes up later and earlier in the book. So it's like a whole big puzzle where things are brought up, and you have to go to the back and then kind of put that information forward. And there's kind of this bigger puzzle once you figure out what everything is, and you look back, you're like, wait, how can I apply the information I know now all the way to the front of the book? And so there's this really neat little puzzle with that I managed to pick up, and I feel all smart and proud of myself. But here's a hint. Once you know what Clue Master's code is, just go back to the very first page, and you will see something cool, which you didn't know was there beforehand. So this was a very enjoyable book, very kind of gamey, which I like. I like books that make me work to solve a puzzle. So that was really fun. I really enjoyed it. As for Grayson the series, they haven't done a full arc yet still, so still kind of iffy about it. It's not an immediate buy for me, but this just Grayson #1 Futures End was really fun, so I'd pick that up just if you're in the mood for a puzzle, if you like Dick Grayson, blah blah blah. So now moving on to Action Comics Futures End #1. Particular cover here is we have Superman who's slowly turning into sand. This is actually really confusing in the story. It's like, is he turning into sand? Is this Sandman? I didn't know. But this was another really good book. Not so much a standalone, but just a really good book in the sense that I think it captured what Superman is so well. Basically, we start with Clark Kent in Ethiopia farming. He's apparently given up being Superman. And then we cut to all of these people back in Metropolis. So we have this girl committing suicide, or about to commit suicide, and when she jumps off the building, she discovers that she can fly. And then we have this family over here where the dad is abusive, and the son stands up for the mom, and the dad starts to beat the son, but it doesn't work. He's invulnerable to everything. The stick just breaks over the son's head. And we find out that there's this kind of let me try and find it. Yeah, that there's this kind of golden Superman made out of magic sand who's kind of lending his abilities to all these people in order to get them to realize their potential. That this girl who wanted to commit suicide, when she saw how beautiful the world is by flying over it, she didn't want to commit suicide anymore. And then we see the boy and his mom, and the Superman one comes, and the mom is like, do I move out now? I mean, I don't know what to do. And Superman says, your son, when given the gift, defended you. Are you going to defend him, when he was invulnerable? And then at the end, and you basically just have this Superman character who's inspiring people to see how they can change their lives for the better, before we meet back up at the end with the Superman with Clark Kent, and we're wondering what exactly it means. If we don't know what this Superman is, we don't know if Clark has his powers. It's kind of confusing, but you don't really need to know. I mean, the story totally works on just the thematic elements alone of a Superman who is helping people see what they can do to better their lives. Which really kind of gets to that whole Superman spirit of he's not just super strong, he's compassionate and inspiring, and the world needs a Superman to show that it can be a better place. And that's what gets me in a Superman story, is all that emotional stuff. So if that works on you too, if you kind of like, I guess like Superman for All Seasons, kind of the more emotional parts of All-Star Superman, this is right up your alley over there. Or What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way, I think is the kind of epitome, the example of that sort of book, and this is in that same camp as those, so definitely recommend. Moving on to Detective Comics, Futures End #1, and the particular is like, oh my god, what? The Riddler suddenly appears. I think this is just like the laziest one, because like Batman totally, like all the others, like there was this dramatic change, and then just boop, Riddler, boop, Riddler. Anyway. And so, again, this is very removed. This kind of works, again, not as a single issue, because it heavily references the events of Zero Year. Not so much Futures End, but Zero Year in particular. But it's a pretty neat book. I mean, it's more reminiscent, I guess, of the kind of recent-ish Batman and Robin run, where you have Batman team up with other people, and so this is basically Batman and Riddler, and it follows the two as they break into Arkham. Arkham is now designed by the Riddler, who turned good in the past 5 years. So Riddler's now a good guy, and he rebuilt Arkham in order to help better, security and all that. But now they have to break in because Calendar Man is threatening to pull a 0 year again, and Batman needs Riddler's help to break in and blah, blah, blah. And you have this really nice dynamic with a kind of friendlier Riddler with Batman, because he always wants to tell riddles, and Batman was just like, no time for this, we got a mission to do. And then there's a nice kind of bit at the end where we see Batman's real reason for recruiting Riddler, or something along that effect. I don't want to spoil too much. The art is really good. There's this sudden shift, which I don't like. And I can just show you, like, here's the first kind of splash page, which is, I forget the artist's name, but it's the regular, it's right, I'm showing it to you. I'm literally showing it to you. It's Scott Hepburn. It's not Scott Hepburn. He's not. I guess it is Scott Hepburn who's the artist, but is he the regular guy? I thought it was the Flash guy who was named different. I don't know. Anyway, but you get the normal kind of detective comic art in, like, in the first few pages, and then you switch to basically, like, it's still a nice art style. I still really like it, and you can see here just the bright kind of blues, which I really enjoy. But it's just different, and, like, when you turn the page, like, and when you see the switch, like, we get this, you know, really nice page over here, and then you turn from the splash page, and the art's suddenly different, which is very jarring. Like, I was like, wait, what happened when I first read it? But yeah, no, overall, fun book. Probably not too standalone-ish, but still very good. Like, it's not bad to pick up if you, like, know who Batman is, if you know who Riddler is. It's not too hard to follow what's going on. You don't have to know what happened in Zero Year. They explain, you know, the book explains pretty much Riddler caused Zero Year. Calendar Man wants to recreate it. That's why Batman is after Riddler. And yeah, no, it's a fun little one-story kind of break-in, break-out book. And yeah, that's, I guess, all I have to say. Good fun. So moving on to Futures End, number 18. No lenticular, because it's not one of the crossover books. Or maybe they do have it in lenticular, but I just didn't get it. And here we have kind of, we start with Superman in the desert farming, which is where we left off in Action Comics. And then we kind of jump around a lot. I mean, this book jumps around a lot generally, this weekly so far. So we jump from Constantine, who's been searching for Superman, you know, trying to, like, say, hey, Superman, we need you again to be Superman. And Superman's like, no, I don't want to, because he did this thing in the war, which we're still not sure what he did, but he did it. Then we jump to, and I don't want to spoil this, but, I mean, it's not a spoiler if you read the previous issue. But then we jump back to Metropolis, where Lois Lane had just discovered that Billy Batson has been pretending to be Superman while Clark Kent was away, and we rejoin them in the middle of that fight. Before that is kind of interrupted by Stormguard, who might be a new character. I'm honestly not sure if he's new. I guess if you know, tell me in the comments. I'll probably look it up after this anyway. But interrupted by Stormguard, where basically that's the end of that chapter of the fight. Well, not exactly. We get beamed up to the Watchtower. And just, it's kind of hard. Then we get, basically, catch up with Emiko and Big Barda, who's been running away from Cadmus. They're trying to plan a counterattack, and then that catches up where we left off at the end of Green Arrow, Future End tie-in. And then, of course, we go back to Cadmus and Deathstroke and 50 Sue and all that, and kind of find out more about just that whole conspiracy thing going on. And that's where it ends. I mean, it's kind of hard to review these weeklies because you can tell that they're, you know, doing a much, much bigger story. And this one in particular jumps around a lot. So you're covering, I mean, just here, I think there's 5 different storylines, each getting, you know, incrementally further along. I enjoyed this issue in particular more than I have a lot of other Futures End issues. I think because it had the tie-ins to back it up, it just felt more fleshed out than these usually do. These usually kind of just go by really fast, and because they're telling 4 stories, don't really feel like it went anywhere. Everything just feels kind of disjointed. So this one I actually enjoyed a lot. Maybe these will be better because of the tie-ins. Maybe it's like one of those rare instances where tie-ins actually help. But still, there's that whole issue. You have to buy the tie-ins to buttress this one. Anyway. yeah, I'm still not sure whether to recommend Futures End or not. I mean, it's interesting for sure, but I'm not so sure if it's good. There have been individual chapters of this book so far that I have enjoyed greatly, like this one, and a few others. But overall, yeah, it's I'm gonna have to review like the whole thing when it reaches issue 52 or however long they're gonna continue this. So that's gonna be a while. And so, moving on from that, we have Justice League, issue 22, 23? 33, geez, issue 33. This book has been going on for a while. New 52 was a while ago, actually, the actual reboot. It's like 2-3 years now, wow. Anywho, Justice League. We're following a story. It's so weird, we're just doing all the Futures End stuff, and now we have a completely a story that takes place in the present of comic presence, whatever. So, in case you forgot, because I kind of did before opening this and reminding myself, the Justice League had just got into a fight with the Doom Patrol over the new Power Ring. So we kind of get this whole fight. Lex Luthor intervened. He's trying to save the day, but he can't exactly. So Lex Luthor and Batman kind of get into this. And so far the Justice League has just kind of been since Forever Evil ended. I forgot the name of that for a second. Basically, since Forever Evil ended, Justice League has just been the Lex and Bruce story. And so we get a continuation of that. And, I mean, overall, this is a good issue. I mean, I enjoyed it just as a single issue. It's a little derivative of Epilogue from the Justice League cartoon show. If you remember that episode, it's Epilogue, just look it up, Justice League. I think it might have been Justice League Unlimited at that point, Justice League Unlimited Epilogue, and you'll understand what I mean when I say it's kind of derivative of that. But basically you have, this book explains the difference between Bruce and Lex Luthor, I guess more emotionally, even though they're both, you know, the genius tactician who uses technology of the team, like they're both that guy. It explains how Batman is different just because, you know, just he has this more heroic nature to him. And eventually ends with, well, I don't want to exactly spoil it, but something changes, Justice League gets shaken up a bit, blah, blah, blah. Not shaken up violently, just something happens to the Justice League. Keep reading to find out what this means in the future. So, yeah, just, I guess if you like Epilogue, pick this book up to be reminded of it. Otherwise, it's not bad, not spectacular. And that's the sort of thing you get with serial-based fiction, you know, chapters, hard to tell. Anywho, last book of this week, and hopefully I can talk about it in under 2 minutes and have this be a 30-minute video, is Batman Eternal, which was the other weekly. This one, so far, I'm enjoying a lot more than, well, not a lot more, but more, no, a lot more. A lot that I'm enjoying a lot more than Futures End, probably because it is smaller in scope, easier to follow overall. This picks up right after the last issue where we, and doesn't jump around, it stays in Gotham, which is nice. And actually, that's what this book is doing better, is that each chapter, like they have these multiple storylines where you have where you have Jason and Barbara and Batwoman off in South America right now, but you have Batman in Gotham dealing with that. And so this follows the Gotham storyline. Right after Alfred has been attacked by Hush, we see, I forget her name, Julia, who is Alfred's daughter, come back to the mansion, find out he's gone, discovers the Batcave, and gets in touch with Batman. Basically is like, hey, Alfred's in the hospital, Bruce, why are you Batman? Also, he needs your help, but Bruce needs her help dealing with the Architect, who was released in the last issue by Jason Bard, who is evil the whole time, probably. I still suspect he might be like a triple agent or something. I really don't know. Jason Bard's an interesting character, and I'm not going to finish this in half an hour. Anywho, we have the Architect, so basically Batman's dealing with the Architect, He has to stop the architect from blowing up the beacon, which is this big tower that Wayne Enterprises is building. And he has to use Julia as his Alfred because Alfred is indisposed right now. And so you get like the main thread of this book is Batman using Julia and introducing Julia to the role of to the support role. And you get kind of just their chemistry. Julia is just learning this huge secret about Bruce, that he's Batman, that he's endangered Alfred in a way. But she, has to help Batman for the greater good right now. So you get kind of their chemistry. You also get, and the Architect is kind of a one-note villain. I never thought of him as that interesting. I think it's pretty cool how they're kind of bringing back every villain. They brought back Ten-Eyed Man and Hush, who seems to be one of the bigger players in this book. They brought back who I strongly suspect is Falseface from the Batman 60s television show in Dr. Falsaria. So they're bringing back all the villains, and I appreciate that, even if they are being kind of used as one note, we gotta do something this week. And it's pulled off well. As a single issue of just Batman with a new Alfred versus the Architect, it's a good issue. It's well done. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the art in this book. And that's really all I have to say. Kind of a short, chapter 22 of who knows how many. We don't know what big impact this is going to have other than maybe Julia becomes the new Alfred for the entirety of this story, but maybe not. I don't know. Anywho, Batman Eternal so far has been very good. I really enjoyed it. I'd pick up all of it if you haven't already. And that's it. That's the end. So, yeah, getting right back into the swing of things after a few-month hiatus. Hopefully be back next week. Maybe, probably not with a better camera. Hopefully this suffices. If you have any comments, questions, complaints, recommendations, otherwise, please feel free to post them below. And, yeah, hopefully you'll join me next week for another batch of comics. Thanks for watching.